Hey, good morning. It's time for Coffee Talk. Welcome back. Got a busy one. How was your week? Mine was pretty busy. Did a lot of stuff this week. I saw John Wick 3 this week. Did you guys go see John Wick 3? It was much like John Wick 1 and 2. You know, John Wick 1 was amazing. Just the choreography of the fighting, the whole story. You're learning about the character, the backstory. You know, wife died, dog gets killed, I think, because there's a dog now. I think there's a second dog. Anyway, I think the dog gets killed, the puppy. And the whole revenge thing and all the bad guys realizing it's John Wick coming at them. It's like Baba Yaga coming at them. You know, they're all afraid. Anyway, John Wick 3 is all that's gone. It's just choreographed fighting, which to some extent I appreciate it. I think the knife fight scene, where instead of bullets flying around, it was just a constant stream of knives because they were fighting in an area that had a lot of knives. Go figure. That was probably the best part of the whole movie. But anyway, if you're into that kind of thing, go see it. But this is Coffee Talk about tanks, right? I decided to launch into the tangent really early and give you a review on John Wick 3. So there you go. Go see it. I don't know. If you liked 1 and 2, it's probably good enough to go see. Anywho, what do we got going on? We got a lot of stuff going on. I've got the code. We'll get to that in just a second. That's probably why you're here. I've got another code, my own personal invite code, which has been approved by Wargaming. Pretty cool. We'll talk about that as well. We'll talk about the channel. I've got a couple little goodies that have come in. We'll talk about those a little bit. Frontline. We're going to have a discussion about Frontline. I will stream. That's coming up. Missions and specials, as usual. We'll talk about that. The Hunt the Sheriff event is out there. And then the subjects du jour. Subjects du jour. Some common test news, a couple of interesting items in there. I'll give you my frontline thoughts when we get to that section, because that's starting to wear thin. Ranked has been canceled. We're going to talk about that for NA, for the NA server. And then I'm going to start another little section. We're going to call it Forum Post of the Week. And it is not a effort to flame a forum poster or anyone in it, but it will be a discussion about that post and the discussion that goes on about that post, especially if it is related to World of Tanks at large. So we'll try that one out this week and see how it goes. Let's get started. As usual, I'll give you guys the code first if you don't want to sit around and have some coffee with Guido and talk about World Tanks. Here it is. It's Taugrim. You can see his channel is called up right there on the screen. Fantastic player, lots of great videos, and is very educational like I am. Probably more so because he's probably better. Anyway, Taugrim. There's his channel, taugrim.com, right there on YouTube. He will be giving his code out tomorrow on Monday the 20th at 2000 CST is the information I have. My code, it'll be on the screen somewhere here. NF6NY9ET. November Foxtrot 6, November Yankee 9, Echo Tango. November Foxtrot 6, November Yankee 9, Echo Tango. That should get it, and I'll have it scrolling across the bottom right there. That is my code. So there, take that code, put it in your web page, and do that thing you do with it. All right. Let's get rid of second monitor here. Yep, that's what I called it, second monitor. So we'll do that. And a couple things. I got this cool mug from one of the subscribers out there. Thank you. You know who you are. You know, I've gone back and forth on that, whether to ID people or not. I think I probably ID'd them on my stream the other day because we were talking about it. But we'll just leave it at thank you. And it's Friends of the Museum, Friends of the Tank Museum from Bovington Tank Museum, I believe. There in England. And then the second one I've got from another subscriber. It sounds kind of creepy when you call him a sub, doesn't it? Internet friend? Is that weird? I don't know. Friend. Another friend. Let's put it at that. Let's put it that way. This book I highly recommend. The War as I Saw It, 1980 letters, 1918 letters of a tank corps lieutenant, or as Obama said, corpse. Don't you love misspeaks in public speaking? Regardless of your political affiliation, they all do it. And we all do it when you're talking. I probably just did one a while ago I was laughing about. But sometimes you just pronounce the word wrong, or you don't even know. You've been using it wrong your entire life, and nobody corrected you. Isn't that the worst? There was a word I was using. I can't remember what it is right off the top of my head, but I'd been using it for years and years and years and years. And I think it was just as I started talking about or started doing Coffee Talk and got corrected on it. So anyway, that's out there. Tank Corps Lieutenant Harvey L. Harris. Great book. Not too thick for those of you who don't like reading and don't have a long attention span. Basically, these are letters sent home from him during World War I, and he was one of the first tank corps officers for the American Tank Corps. Only was in the war for about 2 months, so that's kind of interesting because towards the end of the war, because he has a different view of it. It was a big adventure for him. He wasn't slogging around in the trenches for a year and watching most of his. Although they did take a lot of losses, he never got wounded. So anyway, fascinating book. I highly recommend it. Very interesting if you're any kind of a war historian. All right, so that's that. Coffee cup and a book. Okay, what have I been doing? Channel news, Frontline. That's what I've been doing. We're going to talk about Frontline in a minute, but man, it is wearing thin. We'll foreshadow the discussion with that right there. I will stream next on 23rd of May. That's going to be Thursday, this coming Thursday. I'll probably have some pop-up streams as well in there. My beautiful Frau is headed over to England to a cousin's wedding. So she will be doing that for 2 weeks. I'll be Class B Bachelor at that point. You understand, Class B Bachelor, that's you're a bachelor, but not really. Anyway, I have a lot of terms and things from my prior life that I just assume everybody understands. Okay. Last thing, my invite code, all right? My invite code. All right, this code is what I've been talking about for a couple weeks, and it is now active. And I'll put it on the screen over here. And it is Guido Grind, Guido Grind, Grind. And the idea is for, if you want to make a new account, that this helps you grind for a weekend. 3 days of premium, a RAM 2, 8 or 1,000 gold, I can't remember. I should probably know it's in my own invite code. And 3 personal reserves for crew, experience, and credits. And that will let you sit down on a weekend, start a new account. If you're a brand new player, or if you're an established player and you want a second account, time to re-roll. You got to get them stats up, all that good stuff. And the idea here is that I kind of concentrate more on light tanks, medium tanks. The RAM 2 is a really good medium tier 5 premium tank. So give that a shot if you want to. It'll be interesting because they're going to keep the numbers on how many people use my code and use other people's codes. So they're tracking that, seeing how that works. But good deal if you want to start a new account for whatever reason. Remember, you can have more than one account. What you cannot do with them is circumvent the missions, right? Rig missions with your extra account, that kind of thing. Try to get the accounts on 2 sides, drive your big tank somewhere, and then just shoot it because you know where it is. That's the kind of thing that you cannot do with it. Although I suppose I'm probably not even supposed to talk about that because I'm giving away some grand secret or something. I don't know. Obviously, I don't condone that kind of thing. All right. Where are we? We're going to move on to missions and specials. Let's do that thing. All righty. I am getting down to the end of my cup. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to shill. We're going to shill on the last cold dregs of coffee. That seems appropriate, right? When we shill. And the good news is when I shill, I get so much money from wargaming when I do this. So just hold on and get your credit card out and start buying things because most of it comes back to me. Or Serb, I don't know. It was somebody. Somebody's getting this. That's what they told me anyway. They said someone gets the money. All right. Here we go. What do we got? Interesting. Frontline tanks. A lot of tier 8 premiums are on sale connected with Frontline. It's the last day of Frontline, so maybe not really the time to buy your Frontline tank. But if you were to do so, the IS-3A and the LT-432 are two very good frontline tanks. I would probably say the LT-432 more so, but they're both good for pubs and frontline, and that's good news if you're going to pull the trigger on a tier 8 premium tank that you want to pay full price for. But you've got both those guys. We'll talk about it in a minute. There's actually a special on gold. Say your Christmas gold is starting to run out, you might be able to get a little better deal. Coming through here, we've got the old Berlin 5 plus times 6. There's actually 6 tanks in there. There was a reason for this, and it was on one of the Wargaming with Michael Lovin, his weekly video. And I watched most of the video, but I couldn't find where he mentioned it, so I just gave up because I got bored. So there we go. Sorry, Michael, not bored with you. Just I didn't want to watch video anymore. It was a great video, man. It was the best. It was the best. Just like everyone watches a mine all the way through, I'm sure everyone watches yours all the way through either. And mine are like 40 minutes, and yours are only 10 minutes. So 15, whatever it is. Okay, tangent time. Nothing else going on there, really. Here's the special on the gold. It's with credit cards. So if you're going to use a credit card, you can get a 10%, 13%, or 15% bonus on gold. Not a bad deal if that's what you're looking for. Go over to the vehicles. I appreciated today's vehicle page because it was also nicely lined up, right? Also nicely lined up. You got that OCD going on, and you come to this page and you're like, oh, doesn't that feel nice? It's all very symmetrical, very nice. 432 is a good frontline tank. Marbrecher, leave it alone. Collector, that's a collector tank probably in my estimation. The T-34-3 is fun, but not a great frontline tank. Not very accurate. Lots of long-range shooting in front lines. Interesting. 50T, there's better mediums, right? It's classified a heavy. It kind of plays like a giant medium. There's better ones out there. The gun's a little bit derpy for front lines, and there's just no armor on this thing. So I guess I'm on the fence with the 50T. I don't think I've probably not actually ever played the 50T in front lines. Maybe I'll do that a little while later today and see what it's like. There's the Berlin 5 plus 1 equals 6. That's a better... I like that title better. It should be the Berlin 5 plus 1 equals 6. All right, what else? Pretty much nothing else. It's all standard stuff. There are some tanks that are giving you 30 days of premium. I think those are kind of good deals right there. Kind of good deals. Specials, which are different than featured, as we all know and are aware. I think it's just a mix of all the rest of this stuff. There's nothing else big going on here. No, not much else to say on that. Let's move on to the missions because Paraguay is getting some flags today. Seriously. Okay, on the missions, it is a times 1.5 XP battle. Win a battle, be in the top 5, get a 1.5. So lots of extra XP. Sheridan on track and WZ-132-1 on track. And you're saying, what? There's 2 on tracks? Yes, there are, because there was a problem with the 132-1. They extended it to May 30th, and the Sheridan goes to June 3rd. So 2 on tracks concurrently and at the same time. Fantastic. Scavenger hunt. I wanted to show you something here, which I did not know, and somebody fixed me. But I mentioned last week, I think, that you cannot figure out how many tokens you have because it's not obvious. Well, it's still not obvious, but go here, go to redeem CC codes, click this button, and it will tell you. I don't know why it's buried there, but that's where it is. All right, that's where it is. I have activated 17 of 31 codes, and it's the 19th, so I've missed a couple. I don't know how I missed them, actually, to be quite honest. I thought I was on top of it, but they cancel after, 48 hours, so I have no idea how I managed that, but life happens, no big deal. There you go. And these are all the goodies that you got. And you can see that, where am I, actually? I am probably closing in on the 20, yes. So I've tripped the 12, I've tripped the 5, which are now out of order. OCD kicking in again. So pretty soon I'll get 20 because I have completed 13 missions. All right, that's important, right? I have 17 tokens. So I've put the code in 17 times, right? Of the 31 possible. And I have done 13 missions, which means I have Math and Public 4 missions still sitting out there. And remember, those don't go away until the end of the event. So if I sit down and play 5 or 6 battles and I get the parameters of top 10 and yada yada, then I'll get these goodies along here, which are good. These are really nice. and it will increase this number up to whatever it is that I have finished missions wise. Remember, that is 3 plus 50%, and these are the best. 3 50% credits and 3 100% crew experience. Personal reserves. Well worth it to just find a silly code and put it in there. I think I actually showed you, but on the forums you can find easily. F4U Wingman, I believe, is the guy, is keeping track of all the codes daily. So all you've got to do is go. I hate to say that because I'm a CC and I'm supposed to invite you to go check out all the CCs, but if you really wanted to just find out where they all are, some of the blogs are tracking it too, and I've already mentioned that in the past as well. But there you go. Clearly, we would rather you come. We invite you into our internet homes, whatever it is, where our what am I looking for? Our domain, right? Our internet domain. Come in and listen to us babble about tanks and tell you how good we are and show you only our purple games so that you too can be purple across the board in every game that you play. That's how it works, folks. I just gave you a great secret. All right, play your tank type right. Would you please play your tank type right? All right, that's enough messing around out there. Looks like I don't play many of my tank types right. I've been playing a lot of Frontline, so I have not done a lot of missions this week. In fact, it's been almost purely Frontline. Other missions, what else we got? Hunt the Sheriffs. That's coming up. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but it is a Hunt the Sheriff weekend. Maybe we'll just do it right now. Want to just do it right now? Let's just do it right now. It's a Hunt the Sheriff weekend, and what they have done is deputized a bunch of, let's call it random players. What was I going to? The plebs, the little people. All right, they gave them a badge for the weekend. Now, a lot of people you know from the forums if you follow it at all, and they're deputy with a number. Deputy 1 through, I want to say 100 or so. So there should be a lot of people running around with sheriff accounts, and you can get 250 gold for killing them. Great event, a little bit of gold thrown out, lots of fun for the players because the deputy accounts have every tank unlocked. Every tank unlocked. Now, it lets them play tanks that they have not played before, and you too can be a deputy for these things. But you've got to go to the forums and pay attention. When it comes up, all you have to do is put your name in, and they'll take you. Now, if you're a known troll or TKer, they can look at your stats and see whether you've got a lot of TK damage. They'll probably avoid giving you a deputy account at that point. But really, it's anyone. There's no stat requirement or number of battles or any of that stuff. They just first come, first serve, and you're not toxic. There you go. Let's see. Those are other missions that don't matter, and then the premium missions, which hard to see the one on the right, but those are standard if you have a premium account. All right, that looks to be about it for missions and specials. All right, subjects du jour. Okay, I've rewarmed up my coffee, and I've started with okay. How many times have I done that today? Okay. I just warmed up my coffee. I almost had a critical coffee error, a critical coffee disaster. The normal process is to get about that far to the coffee or done and go back and warm up the coffee cup. So I don't want to actually drain it. That's sad and irritates me on a Sunday morning. So I put it into the Keurig and started the coffee, and it's an American Keurig, so it has two settings, frickin' massive and mostly frickin' massive. So I pressed mostly frickin' massive, but because there was already some in there, it got right to the top. And then as it was pouring in, I tried to pour in my creamer because, yes, I like hazelnut creamer. I don't care if it's frou-frou. I like it. Plus it's sugar. That's the only way I get fat. It was like ingest enough sugar. But we almost had a disaster. And I was going to have to do the old swap. Pull the one out and put another cup under. But it got right to the top, and then I had to balance it out. Then I had to burn my face off trying to drink the top part because then I have to transition back over to the office. So that's rough on a Sunday morning. You know, you really shouldn't have to go through that kind of thing. So, all right. Session statistics. Where are we? We are on subjects du jour. And this is the common test notes. Interesting. We're going to get session stats. So if you have used mods, you might be familiar with, I think it's Yazan, Krasen, or various other kinds of session stats where you can see how you're doing during a session. They're actually going to do that for us in the UI. I am I haven't seen it. I'm gonna hold. I will hold my opinion, sort of. Other than to say, based on how they've implemented mods into the UI in the past, I don't. I'm a little bit concerned about what will get in and what will not be put in there. But anyway, I like the effort. Let's see how it comes out. But general statistics, performance based on results, show how effective they are when playing various vehicles. So all the kind of session stats things to track how you're doing. I think that's cool. We're getting a new map. Look at that. Kharkov is coming back. I could pick a lot of different maps to come back. That would not be at the top of the list, but they've significantly reworked it. And I saw Tragic and Cabbage playing it the other day, showing us around the map. They weren't really playing it; they were driving around, showing us it. Maybe they might have got a game or two on the test server in it. I did not see that. I just saw the part where they were in a training room. But cool, new map. That'll be nice. So we'll see how that one works out. Then it's pretty much a medium rebalance. And here's all these things that we thought were canceled that are now back on the common test. And really what had happened is the current iteration was canceled on the super test, not super test, the whatever the test before is. And then they reworked them. So I'm not going to go through all these, but we're going to get basically buffs to the Schwarzpanzer, Panzer 58, and the Mutz, or Panzer 58 Mutz, Schwarzpanzer, 58 FL, and the 58 Mutz. The buffs to the Indian Panzer, to the Leopard 1, to the Leopard Prototype A, to the STA 1 and the STA 2, to the Type 61, to the STB. Cool. Now what you'll notice is there's nothing in there about the 430 or 430U, so that has well and truly been killed. Whether we see that in future iterations, I don't know, but these were canceled and changed around and then added back in. No, that's not true, because are we missing one? We are missing some. I do not see the 30B. That was at least one of them that they were talking about, isn't it? So interesting. Some made it through, some did not. Huh. One of you guys did mention that the Leopard 1 is quite nice. Somebody was playing on the common test and mentioned it on Twitch the other day and said it's really nice. So that'll be cool. It's going to be a very accurate sniper, which is kind of what it was billed as before, but it's just been OBE, power creeped, however you want to look at it. So pretty cool. All right, what do we got next here? Well, next we have a kind of little terse, I don't know if terse is the word, brief note from Wargaming that it says status update, ranked battles 2019. It doesn't say, the headline is not ranked battles canceled. You know, it's not a clickbait headline like you find on the Daily Mail or something, or CNN or Fox. They're not trying to draw you in with this one. They're just like, hey, we got an update for you. You know, so if you're interested, come on in, check out the update. You know, and you might think, okay, well, whatever, I'll do that later. It's Ranked Battles is coming up. I'll check the update. You know, whatever. And but then you would click on it and go, Commanders. Ranked Battles was originally planned to be launched this month. Uh-oh. However, after numerous tests, we have determined the current structure and mechanics of the system, combined with the density of planned in-game events, interesting, will not be optimal in terms of player experience for the NA server. First things first, I was not a fan of Ranked Battles, but that doesn't have anything to do with whether it was canceled or not. It wasn't canceled because it was bad. People liked it. I didn't personally like it. People liked it. All right. Therefore, in the best interest of our valued players, we have decided to cancel the launch of Ranked Battles in NA. Very important. Only in NA. In order to focus on the modes of gameplay that will best suit your needs and expectations. Please rest assured you won't miss out on any of the potential rewards for Ranked Battles, as these will be suitably reallocated to other activities. Oh boy. I don't believe that for a minute, because how can you? They're just gonna. There was quite a few cool prizes were gonna be in that rank battles thing. Didn't we already have a season or something? I think they were all self-contained, weren't they? But anyway, there was a pretty darn cool prize structure in that thing, as I recall. So what's going on here? I don't know. The forums, Reddit, and the official forums seem to think that there's not enough players, so it's a sign of the end times. And when they look at that, when they said numerous tests, that was not for the mechanics of the rank battles, which worked fine probably because it's going to launch in other areas, right? It wasn't canceled in EU as far as we knew, or RU as far as we know. But it was more of there was not enough players to play it, and the structure wasn't going to work. I thought that was kind of interesting. I don't know how many players played it last time. I thought it was quite popular, actually, on NA. The other part of it here is said that the density of planned in-game events, which means the other things that are going on potentially. You know, I did discuss that a little bit last week when I said, man, it would be nice if the sheriff event this weekend wasn't on the same weekend of Frontlines, because you can't really do both right there. So I thought that was kind of interesting. What do I think? I don't know. You know, clearly we have less players than we used to, but I can say that because I was here 7-8 years ago, 5 or 6 of years ago or so, when it was actually kind of peaking out, maybe 4 years when it was peaking out. And we, you know, steadily it's been a bit of a decline, and to some extent a flat line because we get enough players in, maybe with the slight stair step down. And it's a mature game, and that's how it goes, right? Players move on, they do other things. Bringing in new players on a very mature game like this is not very easy. And to some extent, you start to swing towards just maintaining the players you have and bring in enough to stop the bleeding. I don't think it's the end times, but that is an interesting indication, though, right there. Potentially that there are some of those things going on. If we take it at face value, it's simply, hey, the mechanics don't work and we have a lot of other stuff going on, so we're just not going to do it. There's no indication here that it was just delayed, which makes me start to think a little bit more on the population side of things than terms of we have too many things going on. If they had too many things going on, then they might go, hey, we're going to shift it right to June, July, August, whatever, and we'll do it when we don't have so many things going on. So that's the one thing in there that makes me think, and I could be reading way too much between the lines on there. It's not very much information right there, just kind of a terse, not terse, very brief update. Hey, it's canceled. So anyway, sorry if you were looking forward to ranked battles. Ain't happening. Not breaking my heart as far as the mode, but a little concerning to me as far as the overall meta of the game and what's happening. Not the meta of the gameplay, but the big picture idea of World of Tanks in NA. Kind of interesting. I don't know. Leave it down below. Write down below what it is you think the implications of this are, if any. If any. Or let's move on. Oh boy, here we go. Frontline thoughts. So, played Frontline pretty much exclusively this week. You can see that I am at Prestige 4, Tier 8. The first episode, the first week of Frontline, 4 months ago now, I guess, I did an entire Prestige, excuse me, and another half, so about to Tier 18 or so on the next 30. It's not quite halfway because it gets harder and harder and more Prestige experience required as you go, but a good chunk of the next way. And then I maintained that for another 2 episodes. And on this episode, you can see I got the Tier 8. I don't know if I'm going to even play today. And that's largely why I'm kind of talking about it, because it's really, really starting to grind me down. Now, there's 2 pieces of this I've talked about a lot. There's the min-max grind person who wants those 2 tanks. And it's justifiably difficult to do that in time. Because why would they give away a bunch of tanks really easily? But if you want both the Emil Tier 8 and whatever the Tier 9 is, the special tank, you've got to grind the whole thing out. You can be 2 prestige levels above the current week. So right now you can get to 6. We're at 4 plus 2 is 6. If you look at the reward, we come down here and we look at the reward system, you can see that you need 12 of these tokens and 15 plus prestige 10 to get to the tier 9. There are 27 total of those tokens available. So that's how you get the last 2 tanks. You can come up short and get these, which is pretty good actually. An STA2 for only 6 prestige coins or whatever they are is actually pretty easy. In fact, I think that only takes you 4, right? So 4 prestige levels and you can get an STA2, which is a tier 8 premium medium tank. That's actually not that hard. I mean, it's $30, right? 25, 30 bucks value just for that. And that's actually not difficult to get to. But if you're a min-maxer, then you start talking about the big picture stuff like I am and lamenting about how hard it is to grind. Okay, so the relativistic, it's all relative kind of idea. The relativistic, it's all relative idea. I got it, right? I'm lamenting a little bit about having a lot of time to play a game and potentially getting both tanks. All right, so be that as it may. Even if you weren't that good of a player and you thought you were going to play a lot and maybe not quite get to the top tank, or you're a good player like me and you figure you're probably going to get to the top tanks, it's a lot of gameplay in one mode. So the point of all that is that it's starting to grind me down. One map is difficult. The fascinating part for me is the meta is starting to solidify, because that's what players do when the developers hand them a mode or a game. They start playing it and they start to min-max it. They start to figure out what works and what doesn't work, and then the stuff that works is what becomes predominant, and then we call that the meta, right? So the things that work, what works? Well, what doesn't work? Let's start with that. Slow heavies don't work, except in potentially the initial battle of pushing or defending the 3 initial caps. They can work later on in the city to some extent if you get to there, but there's a lot of the turrets that are outside of the city on both flanks, and they can work occasionally to push or defend caps that are stagnated if you can get one close enough to one without getting destroyed. But with all the airstrikes, artillery, and regular artillery, it's very difficult to use a heavy tank. TDs in general, especially most of the casemate TDs, don't work very well. They're not very good, especially the slow ones. They're pretty terrible. There are situations and places where some of those will work good. The Scorpion and the 130 PM Scorpiansky are pretty decent turrets and the ability to move around a little bit. What does work? Well, what does work is artillery. If you can get a game in artillery, you're going to wait a while. Very easy to rank up in artillery, especially on defense. And if you get defense on B, it's happy day. If your team can hold those first 3 for any amount of time, where you can plop shots on all 3 of the caps, because oh, by the way, you can hit all 3 from B, which is silly. You're gonna get some serious rank early on, and then just continue to fall back and hit guys as they try to get on the cap. Pretty easy. So that works. Scouts work. It's a big wide open map, especially the wheeled scouts, the wheeled tanks work like crazy, and there are swarms and swarms of FL10s and Lynx 6x6s. Fast light tanks, LT432s, 91 GFs, almost any of them. You don't see many T92s and things like that, but something with a good gun and good amount of mobility. You'll see them swarming with the wheeled tanks. So those work. So that's kind of the meta. And mediums, obviously. Mediums of all kinds, and especially autoloaders. Autoloaders are everywhere. Progettos, especially. You're going to find a lot of Progettos, a lot of Lorraines, Panteras if people don't have Progettos. So all that taken into account, the meta has kind of established itself, and then the gameplay itself. So what's happening now is the wheeled tanks are dominating one of the 3 lanes. In addition to, the attackers have learned to flood the lanes with as many as they can put in. There is a limit, but the attackers can actually shift their flood faster than the defenders can react, because there's equal amounts of players on both sides, and it's harder to defend with the same amount of numbers as the attackers have. And the attackers can create an overmatch much faster than the defenders can defend it. They did tweak it a little bit to make it better for the defenders in theory, but it's not. It hasn't worked. The defenders still are losing most of the games. So the attackers flood a zone. They take the cap, they move like locusts to the next zone, they take the next cap, or what's also happening, and unfortunately, this is crushing everybody's ability to rank up, is they are flooding through all 3 of the zones, or 2 of the zones, with the 2 caps, and then getting into the backfield. Because once you push through on one of the 3 lanes, you can then roam around the entire backfield at will. So they're pushing through with all the fast tanks, swarming with an overmatch before the defenders can react, and then flooding into the backfield. The biggest one I see is the defenders defending the crap out of C, which is easy to defend, which is why defenders will go there. And then A or B getting pushed straight through by the swarm, and then flooding around behind them in the back and taking down turrets early. And people just obstinately sitting on C because they're not paying attention to the map. A lot of players just don't do that. They're thinking, great, I'm holding C. We're just going to hold C. Boy, we're really kicking these guys rear. Should be no problem here. And then the next thing you know, it's a 10-minute frontline match, which I have seen multiple of. All right, so what's the point of all this? It is getting stale. It is quite a grind. The meta is really starting to harden, and some new developments like wheeled tanks have thrown a bit of a wrench into the game mode itself. So I don't think that Wargaming's reacted well enough to that, because the wheeled tanks are causing a bit of chaos in this mode. It's too easy for them to get back and behind. It's still too hard for the defenders to defend. It might be interesting to have the attackers have like 5 less tanks, just as a start. Now I don't know if they would be able to ever sell that to the community, but that's just one suggestion. There's got to be some kind of way in there for them to make it a little more even. And one of the things I thought about is not letting them get into the backfield until 2 lanes are beaten. You've got to beat 2 lanes before you can get into the backfield. So you've got the artillery barrage will happen if you attempt to get into the backfield before you've got 2 lanes pushed into where the turrets are. I think that's probably a good start right off the bat. Once 2 are beaten, then that makes sense to me to let them back there and start roaming around. But right now, letting them go in there and then peel off some defenders to try to chase a bunch of fast tanks around. If you've played it at all, though, it is just chock full of wheeled tanks and light tanks, which makes sense because mobility is king on that mode. It really is, being able to flex from place to place. All right, those are my frontline thoughts right there. I'm going to keep on grinding. My intention is to get both tanks. We'll see how that goes. This time I quit because I had a bad couple matches in a row. Got a little bit triggered, but the final straw was actually I was defending, it's the top left, the northwest part, and I was on defense, and they'd got to where the turrets are. And I spawned in there, and usually you spawn in behind that red line up on the top of that little shelf. Well, I spawned in down by the hangar, and there were 3 tanks around me. And I had just waited like 2 minutes because I'd used up all my lives. I spawned in, got 2 shots, and died, and it was 4.5 minutes before I was going to come back. By the time I came back, the game had been lost because they flooded the backfield anyway. And when that spawn just had me go, I had to quit. I mean, it spawned me in the middle of a bunch of enemies, and I died, and that was another 4.5 minute wait. And I thought, well, all right, well, I'm out. All right, so that's my frontline thoughts. Forum post of the week. All right, so here's the forum post of the week I said we'd discuss, and it sort of is connected, or what I was talking about earlier about ranked battles being canceled for potentially server population issues. And I thought it was an interesting post. Basically, it's a bit of a hyperventilating post kind of idea, but there was some discussion on it I thought is interesting. So start your EU account now. Basically, abandon ship, saying, hey, population's decreasing. If you want to get ahead of the power curve, go start your EU account, because that's probably where all the accounts will go if NA closes down. And, it's the Chicken Little stuff has been going on for a long time. On the one hand, you cannot deny that we have less players. On the other hand, the idea that we're all going to be done with our accounts next month because they're closing shop seems a bit silly to me. There's still quite a few people playing and spending money in NA. So there's the two sides of the coin right there. But there was a lot of give and take here. Some people basically saying, it's fine, don't worry about it. Other people saying, yeah, I'm doing that. And then some discussion, which I hadn't really considered potentially, is if that did happen, would they allow us to take our accounts from NA and transfer them over to EU? And I kind of feel like they would. Now, it's going to depend on where you are in North America as to what kind of ping you're going to get over there. I tried to start an EU account once. I don't know. Something stopped me. I don't remember what it was. Some technical issue that I couldn't figure out. It's not that hard, but my caveman brain wasn't able to get through it. And I wasn't that interested in it anyway, and I just gave up on it. But my understanding is somewhere around central U.S., it's about 150 ping, which I don't particularly like. I notice it at 150. It's playable, but I definitely notice that kind of ping. And playing the game constantly at 150 or 200 ping, that's probably not going to be my thing. So there is that technical piece of it. But you've got a lot of the standard people. Someone saying, no, I'd rather go down with the ship. Wargaming is sporting World of Warplanes. It'll be several years. Good point. World of Warplanes has been basically on life support for a long time. That's actually a great point, right? They've been supporting a life support kind of game for a long time because it's semi-popular. And this is where we have to get into the relative reality of what is going on here. This is still, well, I'm going to say it's still a top 10 game. I don't know if it still sits in the top 10 on pure numbers and popularity worldwide, mainly because of the RU cluster. Last I looked, it was like 8. So even if it's 11, that's still pretty impressive for the sheer amount of games that are out there. Being a top 10 game for that long and still hanging out around the top 10 in what is really a niche kind of market is pretty impressive. So at some point we become the benefactor of that success in other places, and they keep that office open. And it's a business and a company. Eventually they'll look at it and go, no, it's not worth it anymore. But I really don't see that happening anytime soon. But if you're interested in a lot of different views on that, I would check out that thread, because I really thought it was some interesting discussion. It didn't get too crazy, but eventually somebody always starts a flame war. So anyway, that is the forum post of the day. Let me know what you think down below on the idea that the end times are near. Personally, I don't think so. It's worth discussing, though, because you can't stick your head in the sand and say, well, it'll never happen, or it's not sort of happening. You just kind of have to be realistic about it without losing your mind. All right, let's move on to the conclusion. Well, all right, that is it. Make sure to start your EU account now. It's the end times are end times are here. All right, I gave away the code. Taugrim is the next code giver at 2000 tomorrow on Monday the 20th. A couple cool things came my way. Thanks, guys. I do appreciate that. We are streaming on 23 May from 9 to 1200. Check out my invite code, Guido Grind. Hunt the Sheriff. You still have a little bit of time to get those 250 gold from the Sheriff guys. I may jump on a little bit later today and drive around my Sheriff account and give out some gold. I've already done a little bit this weekend. Common test, interesting. I just had somebody message me and asked about the 30B. Said, would it be better for the STB1 or the 30B? And I went back and looked at it. I do not see the 30B on the official Wargaming announcement on the rewickering, which is what I mentioned earlier. So I don't know if the 30B is involved or not. I don't think it is, but maybe they just forgot to put it on there. That would not be out of the realm of possibility. Maybe they just forgot to put it on their news release. I gave you my Frontline thoughts. Kind of interesting. Let me know what you think. Ranked is canceled. Interesting, which brought us to the forum post of the week. That's all I've got, guys. I'm checking out. I've got to go mow the lawn. Got to mow the lawn. And my office is now a storage room for my wife's classroom, her 4th grade classroom, because they're moving out of the portables and moving into the school for the school year next year, which is not quite done, but they've got to get out of the portables because the portables were only rented and the portables have to be sent back. So now I'm storing a lot of the there we go. That's about 1/3. That's the front of a tank model I have. That's about 1/3 of a 4th grade classroom sitting there. And we've got another third at a friend's house, and the other third is the stuff she's actually going to trust the movers to box. So I'm lucky my entire house is not full of every single thing from her class because she does not trust the movers. All right, that's the last tangent I've got. I'm about halfway through my last cup of coffee here. Got to go put on the work pants and get the lawn mowed and all that good stuff. Hope you guys have a good Sunday. We'll see you next week. Expect a few more streams out of me as I'm class Bing it for the next couple weeks. And go see Taugrim. We'll see you guys later.